Hello again.
And welcome to Let's Be Frank. We mentioned in the last podcast, which was so long ago, that we might talk about that quote, which we didn't get quite right, but it's if action followed knowledge, we'd all have six packs. And we were talking about mountains and molehills and how to overcome them, and that the main thing is to have some perspective, step away, survey the situation, but don't get stuck in analysis paralysis. Actually take some action and do something, and that's how you can overcome it. So we wanted to talk a little bit about taking action, execution, how important it is to execute and not get stuck in that research, analysis, what next, planning, actually doing something. I think we've spoken a little bit about this before, and we've referred it to exercise, and that run 10 meters, then run 20 meters, then run 30. It's kind of about starting somewhere, doing something, and then upping it a little bit.
The journey of 1,000 miles start with one step,
is
that
it
sort of thing.
Goggin, is he the one who says
David Goggin.
that you must increase by 10% every day or be 10% better than you were the day before? Is it David Goggin?
I think it's 1%. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But I've heard this a number of times, and there are so many people that talk about it. It's just to try and improve 1%.
Yeah.
And if you then take it over the year, then you would have improved a hell of a lot.
Yeah.
So it definitely is about whatever it is in your life, that you want to change, or that you want to improve in, or that you want to get better in. And I think that for me, my assumption is that is the default for everyone.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody starts a year
wanting to stay the same.
If I can just stay exactly the same. So we all.
I'm already perfect. I can just stay exactly as I am.
Let me just stay exactly as I am. So I assume that as the default.
Yeah.
But often you come across and you look at a person and you think, well, I've heard you say.
What are you doing?
But what are you doing?
Yeah.
And so the days and the months go by, and you see absolutely no change. I think the other thing that is also quite common is people only change when they're forced to.
Yeah.
Because it's a lot more comfortable to just sit in whatever circumstance you find yourself in and complain about it and assign blame elsewhere. That's much easier than to actually take action.
Yeah.
Or to think, if we go back to the mountains and the molehills, is to make a mountain out of it.
Yeah.
Where you could have just made it
lots of little molehills,
and you can overcome that.
Yeah.
So there's a couple of things about action that I think are important. The one is to find out what keeps you from taking action. So what is the resistance that you're trying to get to break through, or
usually bad habits, I guess.
Yeah.
The resistance, it's habit. It's you're just so used to doing what you do all the time.
I think it's
Yeah.
I'm not necessarily qualified to say what it is, but 100% correct.
Yeah.
Definitely habits.
Yeah.
The fear of failure.
Yeah.
What if I say I'm going to do X and I don't? What will other people think?
Yeah. I definitely suffer from that sometimes.
Yeah, only to figure out that nobody cares. People are there maybe to cheer you on, But if you fail, then it's not like you're going to be on television, fingers pointing, and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So it's identifying one, for me, it's identifying one small thing.
Yeah.
And then making that change.
Yeah.
And as you said in this example of whether it is trying to improve 1% or 10%, this is just try and improve a little bit at a time.
Yeah.
And just commit to it and stick to it.
Yeah. I think that's somewhere I struggle as well, as I try to change too many things at the same time. So I've tried to change my exercise routine and my eating habits and a whole bunch. I mean, and that makes sense, changing your exercise routine and your eating habits together, because they're kind of working towards the same goal. But I feel like sometimes I will try and make like a really drastic change in my life, but I'll change lots of things, not just one thing.
And that becomes difficult.
Yeah,
and then
it's too much.
if something happens
Yeah.
and you fail in one little
Then
area, then you
feel
think,
like
oh,
you've
well, there goes
ruined
the entire
everything.
goal. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whereas it's not the case.
I ate potatoes last night.
If you, yeah. So
Yeah.
what happens if something goes wrong,
Yeah.
or not as planned, or
Yeah.
not as expected, or not as intended? You know, then you take, I don't know. Then it was a slight detour.
Yeah.
It's not like you're completely lost. It's just a slight
Yeah.
detour. But that, I think, is part of that resistance that I'm talking about. And
Yeah.
Stephen Pressfield talks about it a lot in that The War of Art
Yeah.
book. He talks about what is the resistance, and he's really he's got such a wonderful way with words, and he can explain it very well in terms of there's so many of these things. You know, he goes down to the point where he says, you know, all of our addictions are just some sort of resistance, and figuring out what is it that you resist. And that could be something big and something significant, or it could be really small. It could be just, well, that's just the way that I'm used to, or that's just what everybody else does. You know?
Yeah.
So it's a couple of things where I've been trying to make changes and kind of struggle, because I go back to the default.
Yeah.
And then I'm now at a point where, okay, cool, I can really sit down and think of it in this way of what is the resistance that I have to overcome, and identify that, and then start really, really small. For example, I've been trying to get into some breathing exercises. And the best time for me to do that is early in the morning, because that's when I have the time, and it's
No
quiet and
distractions,
no
yeah.
distractions
Yeah.
and so on. But then I have my routine, and my routine causes me, just my default routine
Yeah.
causes me to, oh, okay, cool. Either I don't think about it, and then when I realize, oh, I wanted to do some breathing, and breathing's kind of just like a form of meditation. Getting into that a little bit more consistently.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a really silly little thing, but I find that I have to think about it for myself and deconstruct it, and then put a plan in place of how I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
And that's starting to work better now.
Yeah.
So it doesn't have to be major changes.
Yeah.
Whatever we do, you know, in a work scenario, is we often get a team together and we say, this is what we have to do, and then expect and rely on people to kind of, okay, cool, from there go. And there's a definite level of FiveFriday involved there.
Yeah.
Amongst yourselves, decide who is going to do what,
Yeah.
who is best
And how long it's
qualified
going
and
to take.
knowledge, how long it's going
Yeah.
to take, and so on.
Yeah.
And where I see people get it wrong sometimes is there where they, well, I'm not taking action because I'm expecting somebody else to tell me what to do next. And that has certainly been, in our quest to create a leader culture, has been the most difficult. This is to get people to understand that it's okay for you to take action.
Yeah. Do something.
Do something.
Yeah.
And not necessarily get it right the first time, but do something.
And then you have a case. Then you have
Absolutely.
something to refer to or something to look back on and say, we tried this, it didn't work,
Correct.
let's try something else.
Yeah.
Rather than just say it's not going to work, which is what we were talking about in mountains and molehills, that often a lot of time that could be spent putting energy into action gets spent going, oh no, that'll never work, we can't do that, it's not possible, this, that, and the rest. So actually do something, and whether it works or not, you have a case.
So what are some of the tips that you have for us in terms of how to get how to take action? You decide
Start.
that you
I don't know. So I've also mentioned this before, that I am a writer, I enjoy writing, but every time I have to write something, I get writer's block. I look at a blank page with the little flashing cursor and I just don't know where to start. So for me as a writer, I like to find something that already exists and use that as a basis, and I'll often erase that entire thing, but I need it on the page to start working, or I need something to start editing, or I need like a base, I need something to start with. I can't just start with a blank screen, a blank page. I was the same when I used to paint. It was exactly the same. I hated a white canvas. I couldn't deal with it, so I would often just paint a layer of a different color and put some texture on it or something before I could start my painting, because I just couldn't look at just the plain white blank. It was too difficult to start on that.
Is it fear of failure?
Yeah, I don't know.
What is it that
I'm not sure what it is. Maybe it's also just a mental block that I can overcome if I try to, but that's just how I've found I work best, is if I have a basis to start with, some kind of thing. So even if it's awful, I mean, I have had to edit some wording that is shocking and that I would never let anyone else see, that someone else has written for me, but it helps me to have that to start my exercise. So something that I know I can improve on, maybe that's it. Maybe it's the fact that I know I can improve on something once it's there, but when there's nothing there, I can't improve on it. It's nothing. So that's a personal thing. That's for me how I start to take action, is open something I've done before that someone else has done before and work off that.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I do think that there's
some mental problems.
No, not mental problems, but there's something behind that. You know. So I imagine if Picasso, I don't know, maybe he started out like that. But you know, if he also kind of had, if Shakespeare, you know, whoever of these famous writers or whatever.
Hey, maybe they opened their old plays, opened them on their Microsoft Word. Maybe they took out their old scrolls and had something to compare. I don't know. But yeah, so for me, that's one of the things. I do also tend to get stuck in analysis paralysis, and I think of all of the possible outcomes and what could go wrong, and often the what could go wrong more than the what could go right, and get caught up and make a mountain out of a molehill. But I am also getting better at just doing something, starting somewhere, and then bouncing that idea off anyone else, and then you can get some input and some feedback. And
can you make a commitment to yourself to say, for the next month, I'm going to start off with a blank page, and I'm going to write one paragraph every day from a blank page.
Maybe.
Maybe.
So wait, a new blank page every day?
Yeah, a new blank page every day.
And write a paragraph. Okay, I can do that. About what?
I don't know, you're the writer. So whether that's writing, we used the example earlier, you know, of you don't just enter a marathon and expect to win it, you know, without running around the block a few times. And that's where it starts, you know. It starts with that first 10 meters or 100 meters and so on.
Yeah.
And that's exactly the same with this.
Yeah.
So I think that for all of these kind of things that we have that stop us from doing something, is we can change it. As I say, with the writing, I said a paragraph. I could have said a sentence. Can you commit to writing a sentence on a blank page for a month? Can you, I don't know, whatever it is, pick something. How do you overcome that? How do you get to that stage where, and I'm sure if we take this writing example, if I say to you, well, can you do that for a month? And you say yes, and you stick to it, that in a month's time you're going to view that differently.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that in a month's time you'll go, oh, look at this, I wrote a page. And I don't know, maybe then you'll have something else. Well, I can't get past the first page. But then we practice that again.
Yeah.
Isn't that how we progress?
Yeah, well, exactly. So you have to just start somewhere and do it and commit to it.
Yeah, because sure as hell, I mean, you're most probably going to delete or throw away those paragraphs that you wrote for the first month. But that's not the point. The point is not to get this published in Time magazine. It is just to get it'll be so nice, yes. But if you do that often enough, then you'll get to a point where you will be published in Time magazine or wherever it is you want to be published in.
Fair lady.
Yeah. So
cool.
Action.
Yeah.
Action doesn't have to mean something massive. It starts with
something
small little steps.
And build on it. Improve every day.
It is the consistency.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Well, thank you, Herman. Thanks, guys. Take action. Do something.
Do something.
Start.
Yes.
Thanks.